get started. Welcome everyone to our November 5th, 2019 West Grey Council meeting. We did start the meeting at 9 a.m. We had an in-camera session, but we are now going into open session, which I have a motion before me. Moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session at 10:15 a.m. Members of Council, are there any questions on that motion? All right. On the motion, all those in favour? Opposed, if any? Carried. All right. So we are now in public session. I can advise that the particular items that we went in camera for were the only items that were discussed. All right. Thank you very much. On item 5, matters arising from the closed session. Are there any? Clerk Turner confirmed that there is nothing to follow up on the public portion. Item number 6 is comment period. This is certainly a favorite of council. Are there any members of the audience? Marion, welcome, and please attend at the podium.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. It's Marion Ratcliffe.
Good morning.
And I would like to comment on the minutes from the October 29th Committee of the Whole with respect to the report on the Dark Sky Proclamation.
Yep.
And I must express my concern, my confusion, and my disappointment in what I read. And that's really all I had to work with. Use of the term dark sky compliant lighting has not been changed from the original proclamation, and it is consistent with other proclamations. We could work to fit specific reference to commercial or industrial areas into it, okay. But I feel that anyways, that and consultation with police and with other committees would be more appropriate done as we work on developing a policy and a bylaw, something that we have actually already started to work towards. Council has declared a climate change emergency, and light pollution is a part of that through wasted energy. And light pollution is an added stressor on an already troubled environment. It's not an urban problem. It is not a rural problem. It's an everywhere problem, and it's only getting worse. This proclamation declares the support of Council in making a change. And what I was hoping today was to get better guidance from Council as to what is expected, and if possible, that the resolution could be discussed today and perchance even passed. Otherwise, I'd like to be a delegate in the next Committee of the Whole and have an opportunity for the discussion to be at a set time so that all members of our committee would be present.
Sure. Well, thank you for your delegation, and that's great that it comes in as a question, because it certainly was on our minutes. I could tell you that at that Committee of the Whole meeting, it was a very positive and supportive discussion with regard to the proposed resolution coming out of the dark skies. We were just looking for the fine-tuning component, and one of the matches that our council sitting at Committee of the Whole was interested in doing was to match it with the draft terms of reference. So there was a discussion that draft terms of reference were being discussed by the Dark Skies Committee, not yet at a point where it's before Committee of the Whole in consideration for council ratification, but perhaps this draft resolution could be matched up with the terms of reference. So just linkages in that regard. So we really took that as a positive, and we certainly have our member of council that sits on Dark Skies, namely Councillor Hamilton, who was part of that discussion. In fact, we all were. So we were just seeing if there was a linkage between, and hopefully there is, obviously, between the terms of reference and this really important resolution. And you'll remember that when the Dark Skies Committee came out and made a presentation to Council, one of the things that we were most interested in was a updated resolution from the committee, and really felt that that was a positive outreach to work with the committee, where you had an opportunity to renew the vision should there be a different direction, or just a fine-tuning of the language, but just an opportunity to bring it back, being that it was a new term of council and a fresh start, or a start with the new Dark Skies Committee. So we saw that as a positive as well. So when we received the draft, which we were happy to see, we were just looking for, we just provided as a committee some input back to the Dark Skies Committee, but really saw that as constructive and to work with you. Certainly I see that at the next Dark Skies Committee, I'm anticipating that our council representative would have more of a discussion and just use that as a platform to understand that you're an important committee to us and that we are working with you. And that's really where we're coming from on that. So in terms of, so that's it, to match it up with the terms of reference. Is there common language that perhaps could be in the resolution? We're quite excited about that. Mm-hmm. And also the idea of just letting our police be aware of it, because our police, especially our chief, would consult or provide information with regard to lighting and security lighting, etc. So again, just a linkage with our police in that regard. All seeing that as constructive and positive, and that we are paying attention and that we value dark skies, rather than you're just not treating you as just a committee onto yourself with no value. You are of value. So just having said that, I know our clerk indicated that he wanted to say something. So
yeah, the October 29th Committee of the Whole meeting, the direction was to contact you and invite you and the Dark Sky Committee members to the November 26th Committee of the Whole meeting. I have yet to do that. I will be doing that. It's on my desk, among other things to get done. Mm-hmm. So you will be invited. Likely it'll be probably in like business arising from previous meeting where that discussion will be had with the committee at that time. So that was the direction given at that meeting.
Thank you for that additional information. And on top of that, just like I had said, that I anticipate that our council appointee to Dark Skies would connect with the Dark Skies Committee and perhaps have that discussion in advance, so that that you've have some opportunity, or if it's determined, maybe just come out to that Committee of the Whole and then have a discussion at your Dark Skies Committee following that. All I could say is that you're valued, and that we're just working with you to improve the path forward with Dark Skies. I think that's the best way to say it. But I appreciate you coming here and having that question rather than not asking the question.
Okay, thank you.
Good enough? Thank you. Okay, good enough? Thank you very much. Any other members of the audience? Mr. Miller, please. We could talk all day on Dark Skies, truly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First, I got to make a little statement here before I ask the question. The other week, there was a lot of junk and stuff came down. I shouldn't say junk, but dirt. The river Saugeen was very, very dirty downstream of the piece. I see there's been a bunch of rooting around going on in the river. Also, something else in the minutes there caught my eye too about something. The question is there some development going to be going on around the middle dam or below the dam?
So I'm not aware of any development. Staff, I'm looking to you for that. No, so I'm not getting a response?
No power generation are proposed now?
No.
Okay, thank you.
But so noted on the river, so that's something that, you know, we could take forward to Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority too. But to answer your question, that's...
pretty dirty downstream, a lot of water, extra water
Okay.
that day too.
Thank you for letting us know about that. Good. Anybody else in the audience that would like to comment? All right, well, thank you for that. It's a favorite part of the agenda, I must say. Item 7, public meetings. There are none today. Item 8, Part 1, consent agenda. I have a motion before me, I believe, That is moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that items A1 to B1 inclusive, contained in Part 1 consent agenda, be adopted as amended, and further that authorization be given for the action to be taken as may be necessary to give effect and to the recommendations as contained therein. Clerk Turner, because there's an amendment on this motion, could you please explain?
Yeah, a couple of changes on the October 8th Committee of the Whole Planning minutes. Regarding the McDonald proposed kennel, I had mentioned puppy in printing. I guess it should read puppy im printing with an M. And then on page 10, the bottom paragraph, the word should have been lands, L-A-N-D-S, and I had L-A-N-S. So there's a few typos that were brought to my attention.
Good. Thank you for that. Councillor Hutchinson, then Councillor Hergert.
Yeah, a couple of other things. So the one in the future committee meetings, under the West Grey Special Committee of the Whole meeting, November 6th, I had down Glenelg Hall, but I believe that's in Bentig, is it not at Lamlash? On the future committee meetings under, this is within the consent agenda, I believe. D2?
Yes,
D2?
under future
committee
meetings,
meetings, D2?
yes. Under, absolutely, Lamlash Hall, vision session for Bentic.
Okay.
All are invited, though, but that will be so noted. Further, Councillor?
Page 28, I think it has to do with our planning and the Gutsky report having to do with the Gutsky presentation. There's a number of typos. I don't know if you want to fix them here or whether you have to do amendment during planning. But in the bottom of page 27, Gutsky's name is spelled incorrectly a couple times there. And there's a D missing on lands. So just typos. So do you want them now, or do you want to fix them and amend it for the planning?
It would be part of the motion to amend those minutes.
So
those
Okay.
be included in the amendments.
Okay.
further comments, Councillor Hutchinson, on your amendments?
Right. So you've got those, Mark? The three there. There's on that last paragraph, page 27. There's 3 typos there. And the other one, I just wondered about the smart report that was in there, and I just had some questions I'd like to ask on that, and I'm just wondering if we want to pull that or whether we should leave it for budget. It has to do with budget basically and where we're going with that. So I'm just wondering which way we should go with that.
So, members of council, can we pull that for budget? And then that way, if there's additional follow-up, then we can ask on that, but I want to know council's opinion on that. I'm going to, if I might, first go to our appointed member, Councillor Hamilton.
If council has questions, I'd be happy to answer those now and just know it's a work in progress, but I think it warrants a conversation. So if you wish to pull it, let's pull it.
Okay, so we could pull that and deal with that under new business? Clerk? Okay, so I also note that for that, we can pull that, so noted for new business. Councillor Townsend, did you have a comment on that? Okay, Councillor Hergert then, please.
Yes, I'd like to pull the Normanby Recreation minutes and put those under new business.
Okay, thank you. Further? All right, so we have it amended, and we also have items that will be pulled under new business. So I am going to call the question on the motion before, or call the vote on the motion before us. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Good. Thank you. All right, now we are on Part 2, regular agenda, and number 9, communications from mayor and members of council. I do want to say, first of all, that the Durham Firefighter Association Santa Claus Parade will be held on December 7th at 12:30 p.m. sharp, and the theme for this parade is Snowman Wonderland Christmas. So FYI, the Neustadt Christmas Parade, which is hosted by the Neustadt Firefighter Association, will be on December 8th at 5 p.m. There's no theme for that parade, but certainly Christmas. So those are 2 exciting events coming up. I do also want to say that Elmwood tree lighting will be on November 24th at dusk. More information to come. The Eaton tree lighting will be on November 30th with a chili cook-off. I know there will be more information that will be coming our way. And the Durham tree lighting is on December 4th. That is with the Durham Recreation Family Christmas, December 8th at 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. as well. Newstat tree lighting, December 8th at 5 p.m. for the parade, and Meet Santa and roller skating in the arena as well, and that will be afterwards. So just a couple heads up to put on your calendar. Certainly if our members of council have more information, that certainly is a good time to talk about it. We've got a couple other meetings to have this notified as well. Boots and Bling, fundraiser for our Durham Hospital. I believe the official tally is 100,000 that was raised, so well done to the Hospital Foundation, to the volunteers, the sponsors, the supporters. That's just absolutely absolutely wonderful for our hospital. I did attend the Bentic Plowmen's Association banquet. I was involved with our Women's Institute, but I had an opportunity to present a certificate recognizing the 80th anniversary of the Bentic Plowmen's Association, and certainly Mr. Miller is an avid member of that that association, and I believe the first plow match you had identified was on your father's property or grandfather's? That is absolutely wonderful and super significant. So anyway, 80 years with that association. I was also part of I attended the Newstat Agricultural Society Volunteer Appreciation Night, and what else? We have coming up the Remembrance Day services. On November 11th. There's also one in Flesherton on November the 10th. Words Aloud. I had the opportunity to participate in the opening of Durham Words Aloud, the spoken word and storytelling. It was held at the gallery. I was very pleased. I read a poem by Margaret Atwood, so that was a significant time, and certainly the audience was very supportive and engaged, very engaged audience. Newstat craft sale was very successful this past weekend. There was also a craft sale at the Legion, again successful, and the first time I attended the Equine Arts and Crafts Show in Newstat on a farm, young farm. It's a boarding facility, very impressive. Poppies are out right now for purchase. Certainly support that, and thank you very much for your time. With that, Councillor Townsend.
Thank you very much. There's been quite a bit going on over the last few weeks, and I guess the gala is where I'd like to start as well. I'm proud to be a member of the foundation and work with them on their gala, and over the last 6 years they've gone from about a $20,000 a year fundraising to $100,000, and I congratulate them hugely on that. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of people to make it happen. In addition, I actually did a tour of the Ontario Power Group and the waste management section out at Bruce Power to understand both present and future plans for dealing with waste. Very educational. You learn a lot about how we're secure, how they're moving forward. But through that process, we also learned a lot about the history of the Earth, because they do core drilling to figure out where to store it, and that tells them a lot, and they shared that. We actually got a picture of Councillor Hutchison holding a 1.5 billion-year-old rock, so I think that's quite impressive to actually see that happen. In addition, we have, I visited 3 possible future development sites that are out there. It's good to educate yourself to make sure you know where things are coming. I suspect they'll be before us or have been before us, so why not educate yourself on that as well. The Eaton Murder-Mystery was a huge success again, sold out. They happen twice a year at the Normanby Community Centre. Encourage everyone to go because they're a lot of fun, a lot of laughs and good meal. Attended the SEDC, Saugeen Economic Development Committee, AGM. I've never been to one that I can say was so entertaining and so educational, if you will. They actually talked about attitude, they talked about confidence, they talked about how to make your customer service successful and make your business, and it was done by a presenter called Daniel Lewis. He was the owner of Tea for Daniel in Brampton, and they've actually gone online with that because I think he's too busy doing presentations. But he's just an amazing fellow if you get a chance to do it. So it wasn't always facts, figures, and numbers. It was actually something that you could take away as a lesson learned. Homecoming inaugural meeting was held, and I'm pleased to say 26 people put their hand up and signed up for participating in the committees, and that was only the first meeting. And so when you get that kind of people going forward, I think you got a good group. I know the previous committee membership, including the chair of that, was absolutely thrilled that they had so many people step up. So congratulations for those folks that did. And last, I have been involved in the poppy program this year, a little more than I have in the past. And I wasn't out on the street selling poppies. I was actually back in the Legion, actually doing some of the administrative work. And it's amazing. You see the people come in off the street, you see what they've gone through. It was cold, it was windy, it was wet, and yet they stuck it through. I think we only had one person that had only been out for 4 shifts and decided it was time to come in because she couldn't feel her fingers anymore. So not a problem there, but there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes from a lot of folks to make that happen. So continue to support it and hope to see everybody out on Remembrance Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Herger, please.
Yes, thanks to all the volunteers, the Legion, the Lions, the Optimists. It just really goes to the social fabric of rural Ontario. So thanks for everyone's efforts there. Coming up, we have a couple musical endeavors around the area. We have the Grey Bruce Singers coming November 21st, 22nd, 23rd. We also have the Chris Kindle Market a little later on in December, provides some music entertainment. If you have any opportunity to participate in the budget meetings that we're going to have, they're going to start here probably at the beginning of November. We haven't exactly set those dates, but if there's any interest in the public participating, come on out, listen, hear how we set the budget. This might be the first time, but we're going to attempt a multi-year budget. So if there's any requests, make sure they come through staff and so on. Also, check your smoke alarms and your carbon monoxide detectors. I sit on the Elmwood Fire Board. They do fire inspections for your home. Just give them a shout. Now's the time of year we all start staying inside a little more, using our chimneys. So make sure you're protected there. We also have the fall brush cleanup is October 12th, starting at 8 a.m. Make sure all your stuff is regular clear bags out at the curb. Thank you. Last and most certainly not least, I've had an opportunity to visit Vimy Ridge lately and the United Nations. And thank you very much to the veterans and all those involved in diplomacy.
Thank you. Councillor Shea, please.
Thank you. A few weeks ago now, I guess, I attended the first sustainability committee meeting that was convened by Councillor Hamilton, and I'm sure she's going to have more to report on that as that moves forward. I was also attended at the AMO conference, policy conference with Councillor Hutchison in London, and learned a lot of interesting things. That's where Minister Clark made the announcement that he would not force further amalgamations on municipalities, so a small cheer went up in the room. At that conference, we'll be reporting on that later in this meeting, I believe, but one of the things that struck me was municipalities that are taking a youth initiative, including having internship programs to try and get youth more interested, young people, not youth, younger adults, interested in participating in local government, both on the elected official side and on the administrative side. So some initiatives there that we might want to think about adopting somewhere down the road. I was happy to participate in the community consultation process that took place in Eaton on the 26th. It was really interesting format, very productive. We have one coming up at Lamlash that I think Councillor Hutchison mentioned. That's tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So hoping everyone will come out for that as well. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to make reference to our Eaton firefighters that were out on Halloween night collecting for the food bank. I know usually we, at our house, have about 100 children. We had all of 6, but they did make their circuit and they collected quite a few bags of food for the needy, so that was great. Councillor Shea has told you about the vision meetings. Yes, there's quite a few. We got the Glen Elg, Elmwood, Durham, and the Lamb Lash one. So those are all coming up, and everybody should come out, and because the meetings are for you. We want your input on where we're going and what we're doing. Boots and Bling, I did attend the gala as well. That was a fun night. Again, I think the reference was made by the mayor. It was successful, $100,000, which is good to do. Last Saturday, I did the Legion Craft Show. They were doing pretty good in there. It was not quite as busy as Newstead because my wife took me down there, and I ended up going to that one, and that was absolutely packed down there. So, and then we did attend the Newstead pork and kraut dinner on Sunday. So,
yes.
It was a full weekend, and the mayor was there as well. I think she overlooked that one, but quite busy in the community over the last couple of weeks, and I think things are going to get busier as we get closer to Christmas. Thank you.
That's very true. Councillor Hamilton, please.
Thank you. It has been a busy time. I'd like to report on one meeting in particular. A few weeks ago, I co-chaired and helped organize a regional environmental meeting, and we had over 27 different organizations across Grey and Bruce send representations to this meeting. And so we got a sense of what kinds of activities and programs are happening across the region with the environment. We had representation from public health, Grey County Planning, we had conservation, committees of council, and community groups. And it was a time just to learn what we're doing so we're not spinning out in circles, learn from each other, copy and replicate what's working, and start developing partnerships where we can support each other and really leverage some of these programs across the region. So it was a fantastic first connection, and we'd like to meet again in the springtime once the snow flies. But we also had a presentation from Jim Ellis, who's Southgate's Public Works Manager, and we wanted to hear how is Southgate handling their organic program in Southgate. So they do a weekly curbside pickup, and then they alternate recycling and waste. So every week the organics are being picked up, and Southgate composts right on site on their asphalt pad. And they make that available to the public after it's tested every year. So it was really encouraging to hear about how that's working in Southgate. And a couple things that stood out from that conversation is Southgate is licensed to accept organics from municipalities in our region. So they could be accepting from Bruce, Grey, North Wellington, all across the region. And I also appreciated that they had these grease cups, they're cardboard cups that they hand out for free to their citizens, and it collects the kitchen grease, and then their citizens could put it in their green compost bins. But there was a suggestion that perhaps that's something multiple municipalities might want to purchase together and leverage that expense. And so there's lots of opportunity. It was just the beginning of hearing those conversations, and certainly that's information I can bring back to council or the sustainability committee as we move forward with sharing information and developing partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, so a couple of things that I toured were the Bruce Power and Councillor Townsend mentioned that Bruce Power site was very interesting, and if you ever get a chance to go over and visit their visitor center, it's very worthwhile. We were fortunate that we were actually able to get into the facility where they store their nuclear fuel and their low radiation material, and you can't get in there on a regular basis. So we're fortunate to be able to see that. It's I feel very positive about the security system and how they go about their day-to-day business there, and they're looking for the future in terms of being able to store their fuel, if not in this community, then in the northern communities. So, and they're also looking at making a repository for their low radiation waste, which would be stored on site. So very interesting tour. Also, as Councillor Shea mentioned, at the down to the AMO policy conference, some pretty positive feedback there. I think Mr. Clark, who is our Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, is very positive. He has a lot of municipal experience, and I think he's going to be a good person to work with going forward for our provincial counterparts. And one of the other things they talked about was the blue box, and there are changes coming to the blue box. Right now, we cover about 50% of that cost, and in the future, they're looking at making that 100% cost recovery by the producers. So what that looks like, and it's going to take a few years to get that all together, but there are going to be some changes there, and hopefully it'll become more efficient, better, and some of the stuff that we're receiving now maybe will disappear since we don't seem to have any place to resource it or reuse it. So hopefully they'll get their act together on that part. And then one other thing that I did attend with a couple other councillors was the SEDC annual meeting, and it's great to see how supportive they are of local business and the money that they put out there to generate and keep business in the area. So yeah, some interesting tours over the last couple of weeks. So that's it for me.
Good. Thank you very much, members of council. We're now moving on to item 10, which is delegations. Pardon me? Councillor Townsend?
Yeah, if you don't mind, with all respect to Councillor Hutchinson's comment, when he said about storing waste in this community, I just wanted to clarify we don't mean West Grey. Sometimes people will pick up on something like that and think automatically it's coming here. It's in the general area. They have 5 different sites they're looking at, and they're not all here. Some are north, some are west, quite a bit west of us. But just to clarify the point, if you don't mind. So.
No, good. Good clarification always, members of council. So thank you very much. Very thorough discussion. Super enjoyable. Item 10, we'll move on. I'm looking. Yep. Item 10, delegations. Andrea Brendel, Ontario Works Manager, as well as Tara Cockrell. Thank you. Acting Children's Services Manager, welcome. This is you're part of the Grey County Social Services. This is an overview. Members of council and certainly members of our audience, I had asked Grey County department heads if they would come out to our council meetings and provide information on departments. And certainly one of the first department that I felt that would be really important was to have social services come out. And I talked to Barfidi about this, the manager, and just want awareness. What is it that your department does? What's the outreach to the community? So it's informing our members of council, but also our citizens. And it keeps the connection between Grey County and the lower tiers, and West Grey being one of them. So we're absolutely pleased you're here. Welcome, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Andrea, there's just a button over to the right. Right on. There you go.
All right. So sorry, again, I'm Andrea from the Ontario Works, part of Social Services. Social Services is under the direction of Barb Fady, and we do have 2 provincial programs that we deliver, one being Ontario Works and Children's Services that Tara will give you a little bit more information about. So both the Ontario Works program and Children's Services, we are provincial programs that are cost shared and delivered by the municipality. So we sort of have 2 worlds that we work underneath. We have our provincial mandate, but we also have to be sure that our programs meet the county's priorities. So the screen that we've included lists the priorities that we do work within. So we attempt to be sure that all of our programming supports the economy and the growth of the county, that we keep our communities connected and healthy, and that we deliver our program with excellence in governance and service. So again, we have 2 pieces to the department. We have the Children's Services. They offer programs related to subsidies for children's care, information for parents, and a range of supports for agencies and childcare providers. Tara's going to give you a great overview of what that is. My specialty, again, is Ontario Works. So we provide financial services. It's a name that came about in the 1990s. It replaces the general welfare system. So what it is that we deliver is the old welfare system. We provide a lot of supports to our recipients in regards to life stabilization, which helps move them towards employment and financial stability. So I'm going to turn it over to Tara.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. So as the acting manager of Children's Services, we have the oversight as the service system manager for the licensed child care centers throughout Grey County, the licensed home child care in Grey County, a variety of early on locations, the subsidized child care, which helps eligible families with the cost of licensed child care. There is also various provincial funding available that we can provide to operators to assist with them with the costs of operation of their child care programs in an effort to keep costs towards the general public lower if possible. And we also provide services and oversight of programming for children with special needs. So on the next screen here, we've tried to zoom in a bit on what licensed childcare is available in the West Grey area. Throughout Grey County, we have 43 licensed childcare sites. We have 28 licensed childcare homes for a total of 2,485 licensed spaces. So those spaces are eligible for childcare fee subsidy as well. And within my department, we have 10 staff that support the community as well. I'd also like to highlight that within this past summer, we entered into an agreement with West Grey that made us able to provide subsidy for your summer camp program. So people who are eligible financially can now access that as an option for childcare for that program. So that was a great collaboration that we entered into. Our priorities for children's services for 2019 and 2020. As you may or may not have heard, we are having staffing issues with child care centers, making sure that the qualified staff are hired and retained. That is across the province. That is an issue, not just a Grey County issue. So one of our priorities is to work with the province and the child care operators in an effort to retain the qualified staff required so that they can operate at their maximum capacity. Within the provincial mandate, we are working to increase access to childcare spaces. That's through a variety of avenues, including an increase in physical spaces, as well as helping to stabilize the sector, again, to keep those costs low for people who may not be eligible for financial assistance. We are working to improve our business processes as a service manager as a whole. So we use the term modernizing our processes to make access for families and providers easier. This year we entered into something that we call OLAF, which is the online application form, so that people can actually apply for childcare fee subsidy online now and then follow up with a face-to-face meeting. So that has seen great success for a new implementation. We've had almost 200 applications since it started in the summer. So that was a great change for our program. We completed a child care service plan for a 5-year planning within line with the provincial directives. That is a living document, so as different needs or priorities are identified, we will update that document to ensure that it's reflecting the needs of our community. We work with the operators and the community to determine the best use of funds. We are currently undergoing a few service reviews to make sure that the processes that we are doing are meeting the needs of our family while staying within the provincial guidelines and our municipal directives. And we are in the midst of a special needs review for our service system. Right now we have third-party operation of our special needs programming. So we are undertaking a review that did community consultation as well as consultation with families, service providers, and the child care operators. So we are about 2/3 of the way through that process, and there will be a presentation to Grey County Council on November 28th to share those findings, and then we'll be discussing next steps. I thought I'd pause here if that's okay to see if anyone had any specific questions about children's services.
Sure, we can do that. Members of council, any questions? Councillor Hamilton and then Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you for the presentation. Just a question about licensed daycares. Are all daycares licensed, or are there some daycares that are not licensed?
So there is a great focus right now from the Ministry of Education to put a stop to unlicensed childcare operation. So there could be a scenario where someone is operating out of scope of the maximum capacity within their home. So there is a reporting line that if we hear of something that's out of scope, we would report it to the Ministry of Education, and they would do an enforcement visit on that. And there could also be a program, maybe someone started to operate a childcare at a storefront without getting licensed. That would be reported to the same phone number to ensure that they were meeting the requirements to ensure the safety of all children.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, my question's sort of on the same line. I was just going to question, do home care providers need to register with with you?
So we are the direct operation of the licensed home childcare agency within Grey County. So anyone who is operating as a licensed home childcare will post a green licensing sign at their premises, and they are subject to monthly visits from some of those 10 members of my team, announced and unannounced, to ensure compliance with ministry guidelines, as well as they are also licensed annually by the province as well, the same as a childcare center.
Okay, but people don't necessarily have to register. Some do register, right?
That's correct. So if they choose to register as a licensed home childcare agency, they can have up to 6 children in their home with a maximum of 3 under 3. If they are choosing to operate as unlicensed, that maximum is 5 children. So if there was an individual operating at more than 5, that would be a reportable offense that would go through enforcement.
Further? Okay. Anything? Thank you. So far, really enlightening. Please continue.
So Ontario Works is a big part of your communities. We provide a basic financial assistance for those in need. I thought I would give you some numbers just so you have some perspective as to the benefits people in your community are receiving. A single person on Ontario Works will receive a maximum of $733. This includes $343 considered for basic needs, for your food, for your phone, for your clothing, and $390 for your shelter expenses. That $390 is a maximum amount. We actually will provide less if someone's shelter costs, if they happen to find something less than $390. So someone living in subsidized housing may have costs of $125. That's what they'll receive from us for their shelter portion. So that $733 is a high number. There are some folks in your community that do receive less than that. A couple without children, again, receive a maximum of $1136. And a couple with 1 child will receive $1191. So very little difference you'll see in our program when there's a child involved in the budget and when there's not. The reason for that is a few years ago, the Ontario government changed their child tax credit benefits. So that particular benefit is meant to offset the cost of raising children, and that was designed that way so it weren't just people receiving Ontario Works benefits that were given that assistance. It's also for people with low income, not on our benefits, receiving higher child tax credits to help with the cost of raising children. So essentially the children were taken out of our budget, and that's accounted for through the child tax credit. Recently in the news, you would have heard, it was more important to us because it affects us directly, some discussion about the transition child benefit. And that was a benefit that was due to be cut from our program. And what that is a small amount of money that we will give while people are waiting for their income taxes to be done, to be filed and registered. Or in the case of a marital breakup, there's a 3-month period where you have to wait before your taxes can be reassessed. So during that time period, when you're waiting for your taxes to be reassessed or finalized, you may not be receiving the child tax credit, which is meant to help with the cost of living and raising children. So we can provide $234 per child for this transition time. That money is paid back to our program once the child tax credit is in place. So basically it's a loan to help you through until your taxes are done and assessed. So again, that was on the table to end last month, and due to some advocacy, thank goodness, it's back into our program. Because for some people that was a matter of losing their housing while they were waiting for their child tax credit to come into place. We also provide some employment supports. We have staff that deliver workshops within the community, and they have partnered up with Y Employment as well to give some really comprehensive and supportive workshops in the community. We do a lot of referral to agencies that specialize in employment, Y Employment being our biggest partner. We also work with LEADS. LEADS is a supportive agency that helps those with some barriers to employment to have successful experiences in the workplace. We do provide a temporary care assistance. So this particular assistance is not income tested, but what it's meant to do is support those who find themselves caring for children. That sort of wasn't part of the original plan. So we have a lot of grandparents that collect this assistance from us. So there are people who really aren't financially responsible for these children under the law, but these children have been placed in their care for one reason or another on a temporary basis. So we can assist people that find themselves in that position. And Grey County Social Services is lucky enough to provide some transportation support. We do have 2 vans that run within the county. We have a full-time driver and coordinator and a part-time driver. So what this allows us to do is to get those with our program back and forth to appointments with our staff, to appointments within the community, to job interviews. If they're doing some volunteering or education, we can help with that transportation. So it fills a small gap for our clients. Ontario Works within Grey County. We do have 7 locations that we provide services from, one being right here in Durham. We have 18 caseworkers, which we consider frontline staff. Our caseload sits around $1,300, or sorry, not $1,300, 1,300 benefit units, so 1,300 files. Right now, we're a little bit low, we're about 1,260, but it fluctuates throughout the year. We do measure, as does the province, how many of our clients exit our program to employment. So the last stat we had is noted on the presentation at 237. I can put that into perspective, though, for our general program on the right page here. So of our average caseload, 2% of our recipients are leaving to employment. So it's not a huge percentage, but what is very positive is 19% of our caseloads stay with our program and have earnings. So having earnings doesn't actually mean that you need to leave our program. So we're able to provide some nice support. We have our drug benefit program, we have assistance with life stabilization, and there's still that contact with our staff while people are receiving benefits while working in the community.
Excellent. I think that's a very significant, those are 2 really significant data points, and they're successful. And I know that year over year that will be built on, but the 2% that have the significant earnings, but also those that are having earnings but still require the program, I think is beneficial as well. So I see the how important that is to the community.
Yeah, another interesting number for you to just to mull over is that 19% of our caseload that work, their average earnings are $800 a month. Of that $800, the first $400 is exempt. And then there's a 50-50 split. So essentially $200 is coming off their Ontario Works benefit for that $800 that they've earned out in the community. So there really is a nice advantage to people working, but again, still have that connection to our supports.
Yeah, I quite like that. I wonder if I could just use this as a break moment to see if there are any questions. Okay. Councillor Hergert, then Councillor Shea.
So you had mentioned just a minute ago about the recommendation and the partnership with West Grey about the summer programming, and I guess I am looking for any further recommendations where we could work closer together. Some of those are just administrative, get the right paperwork organized, but then it really opens up our constituents to having those opportunities, right? So if there are any other recommendations on that, I'd look forward to hearing those. And also to that point, who would be somebody's first point of contact? Do they just call Grey County? I know Barb is our top person there. What would be the phone number or the contact way for a resident to get a hold of either of you?
For a children's services perspective, it could definitely be me, and I can forward my email address if you wanted to include it in your minutes. So you have that contact information. And again, that would be any range of services regarding licensed childcare, or if there was an unlicensed childcare concern, or questions about subsidy or special needs resourcing.
And would you also extend your contact information just so we can include it in the minutes for anyone who's interested? Tara?
Yep.
Andrea,
No,
please.
Andrea.
Yes.
Yes.
And then also to the 2% leaving the program or the 19% continuing with the support, I think the 19% is where you really need to just grow that number, right? To have support is essential, right? I mean, it's the sense of belonging, it's the sense of you're getting somewhere, and to leave the program might not necessarily be beneficial for people, but to grow that midsection of, yeah, they require supports, but that's all manageable, right? Thank you.
Comments on that at all, or?
When I had mentioned the transition child benefit being on the chopping block, there was also a change to employment earnings exemptions that, again, because of advocacy, were taken off the table, because it was proposed that a person's earnings be much less before those earnings push them off the program. And the number that we had worked out is it would have been around $500. So someone earning $500, the proposed change to our earnings exemptions, it would have made them in a worse off position. So thank goodness we didn't make that change this month, and we still have our 50-50 split after our initial exemption. So it's a positive that we've hung on to that so we can continue to support people instead of that in-between range with employment.
Good, thank you. Councillor Shea.
So I'm interested in the 80-odd% of your people that you serve that aren't partially leaving the program or leaving the program due to employment. So they're staying in the program permanently or on an ongoing basis, I presume.
It's not a permanent program. It's meant to be very short-term, but what we do see are complex combination of barriers. So we have people suffering with mental health issues, with addiction, and as well as physical health complications. So what our staff do is try to find the most appropriate path to help those people move forward. The county has given us money to pay for psychological assessments. So this past year, we've been able to complete 35 psychological assessments, and those assessments then support an application to the disability support program. And we're quite successful with those assessments, moving people on to that program, which would be a longer term, more appropriate type of assistance. Some people, again, with addictions, they're not job ready. So our staff just continue to work with them, encouraging that they get the supports in the community that they need to get well. So there's so many barriers that we're dealing with that everyone's timeline on our program varies. But it's always our goal to help people move forward. We do have a caseworker right now focusing on what we call the longest on. So people that have been with us for a number of years, because obviously we've missed the mark. There's some barrier holding that person back. So some more intensive casework is being put in and invested in that person to see what path best suits them and how we can support them. But it really is meant to be a short-term program.
Okay, that's very helpful. So I think a lot of us probably have experience with numerous people in the community that have mental health or addiction problems. And so our best recourse is just to recommend that they go to the Durham office, or that they make the call, or they send the email to get in touch with you? Do you have any more of a proactive outreach to those who are
Our
struggling?
program basis is the financial support. So it's those that qualify for our financial support that we work with on an intensive basis. So unfortunately, we're not the right contact for someone that may be receiving funds through a private pension, or their spouse is working. We're not the right connection for that.
Who would be?
Canadian Mental Health out of Owen Sound, and they've amalgamated quite a few services, and I think that their approach is that there is no wrong door. So no matter who you connect with within the mental health services, they'll be sure to connect you with the right service to help you.
Okay, thank you.
Just at this point, before I ask you to carry on, would you mind just giving the address for the Durham location? Well, the Rockwood Terrace. Yeah.
I don't know the physical address, but we are co-located
that's
with
fair.
Rockwood.
575 Sadler Street East.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, it was not to put you on the spot, it was just to provide that additional information. So thank you
Yeah.
very much for that. Very good. Further questions? Okay, please continue on. This is a really great presentation. Thank you.
So the priorities for Ontario Works for this year is to implement the ministry's direction for social assistance. The focus this year is modernization of our program, so making a phone app available for people to access information, a reloadable payment card for people who aren't able to access their own bank account, moving towards a paperless system. Those are all things that we're working towards under the direction of the ministry. We do complete environmental scans to be sure that the programming that we offer fits the community's needs. That's an ongoing challenge that we have, is to be sure that we're meeting what is actually being called for and needed in the community. We do develop plans with partners to address barriers. So we work again closely with Y Employment, with CMHA, Y Housing, Grey County Housing, to help people address the barriers. That's what we're considering life stabilization. And you'll see some news about the changes of the Ontario Works program, and that will be the focus of our folks, is the life stabilization piece. In the future, an employment may go on to somebody different in the community that specializes in that piece. We do continue to improve our outreach services. Our caseload in Markdale is shifting a little bit, and we're seeing quite an increase in Dundalk. So the Markdale area, we used to have a considerable amount of clients right in Markdale, and now we see it in Dundalk. And I think it's people coming a little bit north for more affordable housing. So we are looking at increasing our service there. We do sort of partner up right now with Southgate and the Southeast Grey Community Health Center and offer services from the Erskine Center. I think it's in a church that's been converted. And then we've recently increased our services in Meaford. We were there 1 day a week, and now we're up to 5. We have a fully staffed satellite office in the Meaford location. So back to the Durham office, we do have 2 full-time caseworkers in Durham. The caseload sits around 120 benefit units. Within that center, we offer 2 public computers that people can use for a variety of reasons. They're not asked why they're there. They're just welcome to the center to use that resource. They can use our photocopier, they can use the fax machine. A lot of people come in from the community to process their EI claims. So staff will help the best that they can. We certainly don't know that program inside and out, but we can help people get the application started. And they have a variety of issues that pop up, and they always do their best to at least steer the person in the right direction.
Excellent.
I had mentioned before the barriers that our program recipients are facing. So the labor market, we don't necessarily have a match between skills and what the labor market is looking for. There's not a lot of full-time employment with benefits available. Housing is an issue across the province, affordable housing. Transportation, because we're a rural area, is always a challenge. And childcare. A lot of positions involve shift work, and there's not necessarily a lot of providers that will provide that care at different times of the day. And as I had mentioned before, we have addictions, mental health, and not always a good match between education levels and the jobs that are available. So as far as the support that we look from our council, is the understanding that each client that comes through our program is unique and has complex needs. No one's path through our program is the same. We do present transportation, housing, and childcare initiatives that we bring to council for support. We ask that if you're able to participate in any community events, we do have a Getting Ahead program where we ask local officials to attend the graduation. So it's a program where people do a lot of self-reflection to look at what barriers they may have in their lives and how they can best move forward. It's a very self-reflective, hard program to get through, so it's a real celebration when people make it through that. And we just ask for partnership in our service delivery.
Wonderful.
So I'm available for any questions.
Wow, that was a very, very good presentation. Thank you to both. Questions? Any further questions along the way? Well, I just want to say thank you very much for being here. It was informative, and certainly it was information that we appreciate being shared with our council, but certainly those that will be watching the council meeting. And I think there is a possible linkage for information sharing, Madam CAO, through our as we are developing our website, and if there's the linkage we can make between the department and our website. So I'd look for that on an ongoing basis. And we'd appreciate if you'd come back again, maybe midpoint to share stats again and maybe update on some of the programs. So I really pay attention, and I know our members of council will, to the barriers section. And along the way, will there be an opportunity, will there be an opportunity for at least one of those barriers to be removed? So it's a work towards. Anyway, so with that, as I look around, I say thank you very much for your delegation. Okay, we'll see you again. So members of council, we do have a second delegation. Emily Morrison, thank you for being here, Executive Director of Launchpad. This is Launchpad Youth Activity and Technology Center. The request for council's consideration of approving a 3-year West Grey sponsorship program, proposal to Launchpad Youth Activity and Technology Center. Take it away, Emily. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having the time for me to come today and to read the proposal that was submitted to you ahead of time to talk about this funding sponsorship. I know many of you have come to Launchpad before, have seen and witnessed the programming, and so I won't dive too much into it because I'm proud to say that you guys know what we're doing, but the highlights of 2019, and I've got my timer on here to make sure that I don't talk too much. So some 2019 highlights. Some of you attended. We had our wood shop open launch, and it was really exciting that we were able to expand and offer more programming to youth. And since that time, youth have made accessible raised bed gardens that we can plant food in and grow and then use in the kitchen. They've made picnic tables, and we've actually got a deal with a local community service group that is in need for some new picnic tables. So they're going to be donating the materials, and our youth in the programs will be building them. And so it's a way that we can offer our skill set and the youth skill set to the community. And then during the summertime, we also had some camps where Welbeck Sawmill, a local company, really helped us invest and build that wood shop. And so we wanted to say thank you. We took all our youth in those wood shop summer camp programs on a field trip to Welbeck Sawmill. They got to tour the facility, talk about jobs that were available at Welbeck, talk about how the business grew and how it's been able to be successful in a rural community. And we got to go and have a tour of the shingle mill as well. So youth got to see their niche market opportunity in that facility. So that was a great way for youth to see employment opportunities in the woodworking industry locally. And second, we had our Technovation program. What we did was we went out to groups of girls in our community and teamed up with them. And through the Technovation program, which is funded by IBM, they identified a problem that they saw in their community and built an app that would go to solve that problem. And so not only were girls learning to code, build mobile apps, they were connecting their ideas with the community, and then they had to pitch that idea and put a business plan around it. So they were building that entrepreneurship and business planning. And at an event at our AGM, all the girls pitched their business ideas, and it was a West Grey girl that won that competition and got financial investment. And she's continuing on building that app, utilizing local services. Saugeen Economic Development Corporation had a youth summer program. She built and became a part of that and grew her app idea. In this fall, I'm really excited to say that we've launched a hot meal program at Launchpad. We've got an intermediate cooking class that's learning and growing their skill set underneath a professional chef. But what they're doing in that program while they're learning is they're creating enough meals and making enough food that they can offer free meals, that we as Launchpad can offer free meals in the community. So that's been really exciting. We didn't announce it too much other than to our local services quietly because we were just scared about how much we were going to take on. And then after a couple weeks of feeding between 15 and 18 youth each Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, we felt like we had our feet on the ground ready to go. And so we were able to, we've done a big marketing campaign last week and sent it out to all the local service groups and different places we could think of to say, hey, we are here and able, if you need a hot meal or the social time to meet with other youth from youth 12 to 18. So Launchpad had the youth wanting to learn to cook. We had the infrastructure in place. We have the event space, the tables, the chairs, the plates, the silverware, all that was needed. And so it was actually a foundation in Toronto that picked up this idea, that gave us the Kickstarter of funds. And since then, Pizza Delight in Walkerton has reached out to offer food that we could use. The Bruce County beef producers donated us money so that we could buy Bruce County beef in Grey or Bruce County. So that was really exciting to be able to incorporate that. And we're hoping and committed to doing it in the new year. So we're really excited about that. And so finally, a big highlight was Grey County picked up our transportation services that we've offered for the next 4 years. So in March, the one-year pilot project from SEDC was completed, and we took those stats and we rolled it up to Grey County and we mixed it in with their application to the province of Ontario, and it all came back approved. And so there's a chunk of the money received from Grey County to focus on a 40-kilometer radius of Launchpad. And so we're really excited to have that transportation back. And so with that commitment, with that 4-year commitment of us serving and providing free transportation to youth in West Grey, we're doing pickups in Durham, Eaton, and Neustadt after school, bringing the youth to Launchpad and then bringing them home again. So if you come on Wednesday night, it's a great night. And so that's why now we're asking West Grey to help us invest in the program materials and the equipment that in Launchpad. With that now 4-year commitment secured, we're hoping that West Grey can invest in the equipment at Launchpad to ensure that we're maintaining the strong programs that we're able to offer. At our board meeting last night, we're looking at 2020, maybe opening our ages a bit more so that we can use your investment, if successful, and reach and touch point to more youth. We're looking to add electrical at some point to Launchpad so that we can, again, diversify. But what I wanted to just say was Launchpad is just a vehicle. And yes, we're a skills development center, and we focus on workforce development and youth workforce development by giving these youth skills and connecting them with people in our community and employers in our community. At the root of what we do, it's about giving youth that confidence. And so if we can show an 11, a 12-year-old that they're really good at welding and that they're learning from a professional retired welder, and we have the opportunity to keep them engaged and keep them building on their skill, that's going to breed their confidence. And when we think about confidence, we think about youth and stronger mental health, which is crippling our youth population right now. We know that maybe youth with confidence can stand up against bullying, which can, decrease. And then at the same time, we know that with youth with confidence, it stops any self-deprecating thoughts that, again, cycle that depression and that youth mental health. And again, what's exciting about Launchpad is that we're able to connect those youth with the community. So not only are they building their skills, but there's opportunity for them to continue their skill growth and look for employment in our local community. A way we're continuing that is Alyssa. She's a 15-year-old welder, and she's amazing. She's entering her skills competitions in Grey Bruce and Ontario for welding, and she's bored now. And so with fear of losing a wonderful talent, we're now working with her and her mentor to come up with an all-girls program in the new year, and she'll be the lead instructor. So now she's transitioning to being a recipient of that skill. She's so talented, and under the instruction of her high school teacher, they're willing to come and offer now. And so those youth are now becoming instructors so that they can teach more and spread theirs and get those other change and leadership skills. So wrapping back up, if there's any questions in the proposal, I'm willing to answer them or share more highlights. But now with this commitment from Grey County to ensure that we're able to bring youth in West Grey to Launchpad, and a commitment to be a regional developer, we really want, or we're asking for your investment into Launchpad to ensure that we maintain our strong programs.
Well, thank you very much, Emily. You're very inspiring. You're supporting youth, you're engaging them, you're uplifting them, and you're promoting our youth in Grey County, and that's really to be commended. I just want to say that overall, a couple things. I was fortunate enough to be invited to be a judge during the technology event and at the annual general meeting, and I do recall the West Grey youth that won that competition. I'm just wondering if there is a possibility at some point we can connect with staff on this, whether yourself and that young lady could come out to council and just make a brief presentation in terms of the app that she created. I think it was Kazuku.
Yeah.
It was a Japanese name meaning connection.
Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah. Giving
Very-
youth a platform to
Yes.
talk and connect with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile if she'd be so inclined, and if you could come out, we can make that connection. How she progressed to create that app, and what's going on with it right now. The status. So that's something we could connect with staff on, and maybe that would be a potential presentation to council on that. I think we'd very much like that. In terms of what you're requesting now, I think that's amazing. I think we need to continue on with the connection here in West Grey with Launchpad. I'd be interested in data collection in terms of ridership, activity level, that sort of thing. I'm going to put it out to council if there's any questions, but I'm wondering if council would be so inclined to suggest that this should be brought over to our Economic Development Committee, of which we have Councillor Hutchinson, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Townsend serving on economic development. So food for thought right now in terms of the pathway forward for this request. And you're very timely, Emily, because we're coming into the budget cycle again. So questions? I'm just looking to my right. Councillor Hutchinson first.
Yeah, Emily, thanks for your presentation. It's exciting that we have this Launchpad in our area. I guess it's the closest thing we have to somewhat of a college, I guess, when you start looking at the older age group. And that was one of my comments when I read your report, that you are starting to get into the 18 to 29 age group, and people that are using the facility during the day, because like a lot of our facilities, it gets used at night, but during the day, sometimes they're pretty quiet. So it's nice that when you have that facility and you have the resources there, that you're starting to expand it during the day when the other high school kids are at school, right? So they're not available to come. So I think that's great, and I think that's the direction that we should continue to pursue. My other question was, you mentioned here about financial partnerships, and Gemini was one of them, and which is a West Grey business. I wondered if you approached other business, because, for example, in your woodworking shop, we have Durham Furniture, who employs a lot of people in furniture industry. I'm just wondering if you've reached out to some of the other businesses that welders and welding shops that are going to benefit from your skills that you're developing there.
Yeah, well, it's actually because of the wood shop that we started thinking more about the 18 to 29-year-olds, because of our strong local wood manufacturing facilities. So on our launch day, we had the president of Durham Furniture, West Bros Furniture, and Crate Design come out, and what the kickstart came from Westboro's of doing the 18 to 29. So we could be almost, they get hired at Durham Furniture and at any local wood manufacturing facility. But before they are on the job, they come to Launchpad and they have a professional instructor teaching a professional curriculum that just gives them that heads up so it doesn't lose productivity. So almost like a 1 month pre-hire training program in a safe environment with an instructor that's about learning, and so that when they get on the job, they'll be that much more advanced and the training at the job site will be decreased, which will ultimately increase productivity. So absolutely, they're there and they're excited, and we're talking. Yeah.
Right. So it does sound like it's sort of like our version of a satellite college and whatnot, or apprenticeship to help out with apprenticeship. So yeah, I think it's exciting. I think that it's a budget that something we need to look at through budgeting, whether it comes through economic development or whether it just comes through general budgeting. But it's something we need to have a discussion about. But I would be supportive of it.
Absolutely, very good. So I do have a speakers list. I just want to let people know. It'll be Councillor Townsend, Councillor Herger, Councillor Shea, Councillor Hamilton at this point.
First of all, Emily, congratulations on your forward thinking and the way that you seem to always be moving forward. And inspiration comes not only from you, I'm sure it comes from the other folks that you have at Launchpad, as well as the partnerships. I know a lot of your partners are excited and they spend a lot of personal time as well as resources like money and product and et cetera to make you successful. So I wanted to acknowledge that to begin with. I'd already made a note on my own copy to say that economic development is where we should take it.
Okay.
You know, going forward, I think we should support it. I'm pleased to see that West Grey itself is actually benefiting from the transportation that's coming from the county. So we're always looking for the county to support us. So we should also help ourselves. So thank you again. I really do appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Good, thank you for that. And I just note that Madam CAO has also just confirmed through a nod, I believe, that she would feel that that would be the flow of this request to go through economic development. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Councillor Herger, please.
Yes, I'm happy to see how the partnership has evolved with Grey County on the transportation. I know that overall we're trying to get a whole network of public transit together for the county, so this will be another added component. I see that it works in with the Ontario Works program, you know, taking the people that are underskilled, just haven't had somebody to, you know, to really help them get going. And I see that the Launchpad is a safe place for everyone to come learn. I am excited to hear about your electrical, you know, potential new endeavor for trades. But to Councillor Hutchison's point, I'd love to see that there's more business. And I say that because we want to help provide these opportunities, but it almost seems, and I've heard this for several years, it looks as though the school system is out on this component of home ec and the trades and teaching those parts, and this Launchpad program fills in that gap. It's obviously not being done at the schools to the level that it used to be, and now we have a Launchpad, you know, close enough, and I say it's we because really our students are going there and they're coming back and they're being able to support our community. So I think a little more work on the transportation with Grey County and how it all fits together. I know there's a lot of different parts and pieces to the transit. Also, youth mentorship opportunity, Councillor Shea brought that up earlier today. We've heard this at AMO. We need to have some youth be involved on our side of the table and helping to make these, you know, to see how we shape government and to get them brought in at a ground level that they can find success here working at a municipal office. So I would like us as council to really tell our CAO that we want to have some youth in this building learning the operations. I don't know how they would see themselves here if we don't bring them in here. We don't get a lot of you know, residents coming out to say, what are you guys doing in there? You know, but I think it is very important for everybody to kind of open the doors and say, if you know, the long-term sustainability of any company is bringing in people at the younger stages and showing them how to do. So I applaud your efforts, and I look forward to further partnership.
Thank you. Good. And I think you really highlighted some really essential components, and certainly the activity of youth in local government. There has in the past been co-op programs where there's been connections, and certainly there could be some ongoing consideration of having youth here working on specific projects or overall support. So I know that's been assessed very recently, and just in terms of how that would be managed out in here. So very good for highlighting that. So I know our CIO is working through that, shall I say. I think that's the best component. Thank you for all of your comments. Councillor Shea, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yes, thanks, Emily. That's very inspiring. I'm very supportive of Launchpad and its initiatives and your initiatives. I would look forward to discussing this further at budget time. I have taught workshops at Launchpad, and I think I did it on a volunteer basis. I think that's how most people do it, right? So I applaud Councillor Herger's idea of having some mentorship at the political level as well as something that staff might do at the administrative level. So maybe we should volunteer to do a youth political workshop activity. I would be happy to work with you on that.
March break camp, let's do it.
Right?
A one-day March break camp.
Write that down. And I like that you're expanding to the older age group and including adults as well. And that you've got this sort of industrial skills training emphasis in what you're doing. Somebody suggested an idea of maybe making this region become a bit of a hub for agricultural skills training as well, perhaps even organic agricultural skills training. I don't know if that's something that's in your future plans, but something I'd like to leave with you.
Really excited about the accessible raised bed garden boxes that the youth built this summer. So definitely
Good.
incorporating that organic aspect into that program.
Excellent. A lot of great ideas at the table. I'll now go to Councillor Hamilton, please.
Yes, inspiring is the word. Thanks for coming today, Emily, and sharing how you're really leveraging all the partnerships and making this feel like we're all part of this across the region. And that's really exciting. Oh, and I just wanted to extend the working with youth. Wouldn't it be cool to have like a mock council or maybe mayor for the day? Just a few ideas to throw out at you, Emily. I think there's a lot of keenness here at the council to work with our youth in the community. I just had a question about, and I'm very supportive of your program. I just had a question about, you mentioned how many youth from West Grey are participating right now in the fall program, and it says there's 16 youth. So my question was, how does that roughly compare to other municipalities' participation? Is there room to build? Like, are we looking to increase how many youth are coming from West Grey?
Oh, for sure. I feel I'm super pumped that the transportation program is back for this term, but it came back very quickly, close to our program session start time. So it was announced earlier, but by the time policies and admins and paperwork went through and flowed through, I wasn't proud of how much time we had ahead to get that offer out there. So I'm excited. And then there's Grey County was working on efficiencies and exciting new opportunities, and they're talking with different transportation providers right now that in hopes that maybe we'll have a stronger system in place in the new year. So that would definitely shoot up the numbers from West Grey. But I think also if with you standing up and saying that you're investing in Launchpad, I think people will hear that and know about the programs. And so I know it'll go up and there's room to grow.
There's room to grow. That's great to hear. So there's room to grow. And then I guess my third part of that question would be, how can we work together to get the word out and make sure youth across West Grey know about the transportation program and your programs? Is there any more that we could do or work with you?
I know you have a community newsletter that gets distributed out, and so that would be definitely an opportunity for us to send you our program schedule if it could be included in your awareness newsletter. We're hoping to have the wintertime schedule up by the 15th of November, so giving that good time frame for you to know about it, and sharing always, I always say, it's one thing to like something on Facebook, but it's important to share that on Facebook, because that's how it reaches new people when people share things on Facebook. Yeah.
Excellent. Great, thank you. And Emily, are youth on Facebook? I know I am.
You're right.
Where are the youth?
Yes, youth are on Instagram and Snapchat. So if the Canadian egg farmers can advertise on Snapchat, I'm going to try and figure out how Launchpad can. But you're right. But then also the hope is that is that parents see great things and talk about it. So trying to hit all those target audiences.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But if you want to talk to youth, get them on Instagram. So
Great.
Yeah.
Great questions. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, if I can just add a couple of things. We're talking about co-op placements. I've always been a big promoter of co-op placements, and I do think that it's something that we can do a better job of as a municipality, bringing students in, and I'm sure there's a place that Launchpad can fit in there, whether it's some kind of pre-training or whatever. The other thing I just wanted to mention is there was some mention about the high schools, and I think it was Councillor Hergood, that the high schools do have some pretty good shops. Like when he did a tour of the new JDSS, their machine shop, their automotive shop, they're top notch. So I think, but I see Launchpad as being a support to the high schools for a couple of reasons. One being that if someone is talented or is really interested in developing a skill of welding, for example, they're going to get they'll be in a smaller group, more hands-on. Maybe that person is the type of person that's not real confident, like you said, and in a bigger setting, in a high school where there's a lot of kids, sometimes you don't get that individual support. So I think Launchpad could be a support in that type of thing with the high school to advance some kids that might be on the edge a little bit. So yeah, I think it's something I would hope that your thoughts are, that you're sort of a support for what's happening in the high schools and work together with them, because I think and we do need the skills for sure. So, and there is a push to the secondary school to promote and get those skills out there.
Oh, for sure. And you have to, it is a teacher at JDSS that kickstarted the welding after school programs. He would go to school all day and then come and teach at night for us. As a way for us to reduce our costs, we buy steel in and then give it to the high school so they can cut it for us using their equipment and infrastructure already in place. So it significantly reduces the cost to operate. But exactly in the sense of supporting and feeding, what makes the Launchpad awesome and unique and really excited by local industry is that we're able to teach youth welding at 11 and 12. And if they were to go the traditional route, they wouldn't be able to try welding until they're 15 or 16 in the traditional high school setting. So it allows you to figure out at an early age what their skill set is, maybe learn a little bit ahead of time, and then make sure that they're able to put that in their timetable when they get to high school. So it's a way to keep and feed the system. So absolutely. The being in close partnership, and if you want to connect more, Dawn McKay is the most wonderful teacher at the high school. She teaches the leadership class, and Charlotte Wepler is the co-op student teacher at the high school. So those two people, if you have any project ideas or problems you need kids to solve, just pitch it to her leadership class, and I know they'll come up with something great.
Yeah,
So.
and thank you, Councillor Hutchinson, for that. I'm just reminded that also in the high schools there's robotics clubs. And they actually go out on, they build robots and then they compete. And I mean, doesn't that extend to science, problem solving, mathematics, future engineers, just future contributors to our community and society, just on robotics, but based on, you can amplify that for any profession or service or program that our youth will undertake as they become adults and are entering into the workforce. So I hear your point collectively. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Yep. Thank you, Emily. Excellent delegation. I see this as, I think we need to help you promote this and get the public awareness out there to, manufacturing, businesses, just the general public as a whole. But I see this more as a tool for some of the younger ones that want to take a trade or not sure if they want that specific trade. I see this as a good spot for them to go try it. If they did find their niche, then off we go, and we're going to keep them in our community just because we're in that position now to help. But if it's not really what they want, then they can look at other alternatives. So I think that's where I see this happen, because I know I have a 17-year-old, so I see a pile of them wander around aimlessly, really don't know what they're going to do, even at I know it's young, but I think some opportunities are there to help them point in the right direction. And again, trades is really what everywhere in the province is needing. But thank you for your dedication and the delegation.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. So what do we have here? Okay, there, I'll put that down for potential mover and seconder based on this delegation. So we hope you come out again just to provide us updates. We're absolutely excited and inspired by Launchpad and what you're doing on behalf of Launchpad and for our youth. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very interesting delegation. All right, I do have a motion before me, which is from Deputy Mayor Hutchinson and Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby refers the request for financial assistance from the Launchpad Youth Activity and Technology Centre to the West Grey Economic Development Advisory Committee for discussion and recommendation to Council for consideration during the 2020 budget deliberations. Questions or comments? Calling the motion, all those in favour? Opposed, if any? Carried. I do want to say at this point it's carried unanimously, so I think that's worth noting. So thank you very much. Please stay tuned. Okay. Thank you. So, members of council, we are now off item 10, so we've completed our delegations. Item 11 is business arising from the previous meeting. Is there any? All right, thank you. We're swiftly moving on to item 12, staff reports, and the first one on deck is from our Director of Finance and Treasurer. It's the approval of voucher number 20-2019. Director Mighton, would you mind just identifying why it is high this month?
Yep, so the significant item in there is the tax sale payment into the court. It was just over $550,000, and that's, we keep our tax amount with admin fees associated with the tax sale process, and then the balance of any surplus gets mandatorily paid into court. So that's what the difference is there.
Thank you for that update. We appreciate the summary on that. Members of council, any questions on this? Seeing none, I do have a motion before me, moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance and Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 20-2019 in the amount of $1,082,703.62 of the Municipality of West Grey. Comments or questions on the motion? All those in favour? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you, Director. That completes your report. We appreciate that. So our next report will be coming from our Chief Building Official, so that will be happening momentarily. Thank you for that. We do have a report. Shall I just draw your attention to Carl Shipwreck, our Chief Building Official's report. CBO 2019-03 is the report. And I will just say that the recommendation before us is to receive for information. So we're just awaiting on his arrival. Thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you very much. So I've just introduced your item. Did you, as our Chief Building Official, wish to make a presentation on your report? I would hope you would just highlight some of the successes and other items in your report.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Yeah, I'd just like to point out a couple of things we talked about when I presented the Q2 report, and I included the Q2 report as one of the pages in the report that we were down some significant numbers as far as permit numbers. Our values were approximately the same, but our permit numbers were down. And I indicated then that I believe that the numbers were going to come up because of the amount of applications that we had received in July at the time I issued that report. And does the Q3 numbers do show that I believe because of the slower start to the spring this year, that the applications were behind, and did catch up in July especially, and we are now above where we were last year by approximately 8 permits. And our project values are up about 8 million, and our permit fees are up approximately 27,000, as you can see by the report there. A couple other things council had asked to include the number of new units created, which I have included in the top section there, number of new units. So in 2018, we created 46 new units, and in 2019 so far, we have done 50 new units. So we're about 4 more than last year approximately. Sure. That's all I have.
Good. Thank you very much for that thorough report. We appreciate it. Looking for questions from members of council on this? All right, seeing none, then I would be looking for a motion to, yeah, absolutely. Just a motion to receive this report. Councillor Townsend and Councillor Hergert, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to the next quarter report.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're moving on to the clerk report, report CR 11/05/19. Clerk Turner, the first item is the Municipality of Grey Highlands.
Yes, so I am recommending council supports this resolution. They are asking the province basically to give clear direction as to what they deem as mandatory or non-mandatory programs that conservation authorities offer before any final decisions are made, and then ultimately where these funds will be, how these programs will be funded in the future. So some of these, as you may recall, we've had some discussions with the Conservation Authority in terms of, for instance, commenting on natural heritage features and endangered species. So that would be something likely that would be cut if, because it may be deemed a non-mandatory program offered by the conservation authorities in the province's eyes. So that's one thing that could also include the conservation areas that are run by the CAs, Conservation Authorities of Ontario, as well as forest management projects and or programs and other programs that are currently offered. So just for the province to clearly determine the status of either, perhaps certainly I think public input would be valued before any final decisions are made. So I do have a motion if council wishes to entertain one.
And I thank you very much for that update. And also, we're just help me out with the status of the agreement with the Conservation Authority for Natural Heritage and other programs, so that council's right up to date on that, please.
So we just got an email from the Conservation Authority with the proposed new memorandum of understanding for starting 2020. So that will be coming to the November 12th Committee of the Whole Planning meeting for discussion and direction for council.
Right, thank you. It's just there's a combination. Sometimes there's additional variables that come into play on things of this nature. Are there any comments or questions? Thank you, Clerk Turner. Councillor Townsend and then Councillor Shea, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, from the clerk. Yep. Are we clear on what is actually mandatory and what isn't? I get the impression from this that it isn't, and I'm wondering if the memorandum of understanding actually clarifies that. Like, has that actually been done? I agree with actually Grey Highlands and the Springwater, which kind of has a different kind of tone and whatnot to it. But again, depending on your answer, I might actually recommend that we do our own rather than try to go off somebody else's words. That doesn't quite reflect everything that's there. But anyway, let's start with the clarification of, do we understand, have we been told through the memorandum of understanding, if no other way, of what is actually mandatory and not, i.e. what are they offering?
Fair enough.
I don't believe the MOU gets into what is mandatory, what isn't. It just basically speaks to the services that are going to be offered through the contract by the conservation. Again, there was some willingness again for the Conservation Authority to continue to do the natural heritage commenting because we have no staff, even at the county level, that have the expertise to do that. So outside of that, you'd have to hire a consultant, which I think would be, again, be a higher cost. So no, I don't have a clear, in my mind at least, what exactly is mandatory, non-mandatory, and thus I think the stems of resolution from Grey Highlands for the province to clearly enunciate that so that some informed decisions can be made and commenting be received about that issue before any final decisions are made by the province.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shea.
Just wondering why you didn't recommend supporting the other one.
It's received as information.
Yeah, well, we can get to that, but basically, if you relate just to the core mandatory programs, then I believe that will not include their ability to comment on natural heritage features, for instance. So that is one, perhaps among other items, that I'm just not comfortable with that resolution, given the direction to include the natural heritage features, for instance.
Okay.
And one of the things that we looked at with respect to natural heritage is that the Conservation Authority can do that, so they're already on the property making assessments, so this is in addition to it, rather than having additional people on a property. So that was one of the benefits for that. We have that, and I'm glad to hear that the Memorandum of Understanding will be before us in short order so that we could have that discussion. So, and I do note that Councillor Hergert wants to speak next. Perhaps, I mean, if Council chooses on this first resolution that's coming through from Grey Highlands, if there is support, but we also look at the township of Springwater, perhaps, and just food for thought, maybe receiving both until, and so we've got them as receipt. There's no harm in doing that, and we gain in other additional information as it flows through with regard to core mandate of the Conservation Authority and also our consideration of the Memorandum of Understanding. So that might be an approach that you wish to consider, and certainly the receipt of both is certainly a good thing to do as well as, you know, a support or not support. So something to consider anyway. Councillor Hergert, please.
I would move that we defer both of these until we actually see what is required, what's core services. Also, I'd like to see the Memorandum of Understanding that I understand will come forward in short order. But also the budget that is being proposed. I know there's been a great deal of work at Saugeen Valley to establish some sort of base budget there and to see what programs would continue. So I think it's more of a wholesome report that would come forward, as, you know, addressing all of those items to say, where are we for conservation for next year? And then maybe that also allows the province time to set out what are those core requirements, and then we would know exactly what's must and what's a want kind of idea there.
Sure. And a deferral of the two, if we could perhaps fold them both in. A deferral of both rather than receipt. It's just different options of which, you know, council can look at. So I'm good either way for sure from my perspective. So I note that you are moving deferral. Is there a seconder? Would that be you, Councillor Townsend, with your hand up? Okay, thank you very much. Are there any comments? Now, Clerk Turner, could I at this point fold in also the Township of Springwater into this? As the motion is clearly suggesting. So we're folding in both items. So I'm just procedurally making that announcement. And at this point, members of council, do you wish to comment on either one of these, or we do have a motion before us? So I want to ensure that there's an ability for that discussion. So I'm looking down here. Councillor Shea first.
I think the provincial government has recently demonstrated that they're attentive to statements and gestures and initiatives taken by the local municipalities. I think that's very much to their credit. I do think that this has become a muddled issue where they've said that you need to, you know, take action on a series of services and not identified what the services are. So I think everyone feels a little bit confused. I would tend to support the first request and possibly the second one as well.
Yeah.
But I don't feel, if we're going to defer and take later action at a later time, I don't think that's a bad decision, but I would have leaned the other way.
Fully understood. Well, you still can decide what you wish to do during the vote, for sure, as noted. Okay, so everybody on this side had an opportunity to comment. I'm going to look over here. Councillor Hamilton, then.
Yeah, so further to Councillor Shea, I was leaning more towards supporting the Grey Highlands in particular, as they specifically speak to the winding down of programs. So I'm going by memory here, but my memory was that the province was asking that the conservation authorities wind down all programs that aren't mandatory. And also going from memory, what I remember about the concern about that was some of those programs were actually revenue generators for conservation areas. I'm going by memory here, but they were beneficial to the community, and they were either revenue neutral or they were a way for them to find other revenue sources, if that makes sense. So this motion by Grey Highlands speaks specifically to that, which the other one from Blue Water, no. Springwater, thank you, does not. And it's also asking for clear direction as to what programs and services are considered mandatory and non-mandatory. So I think both those themes I could wholeheartedly support now, in addition to doing some of this other legwork that we want to do as West Grey. So I would be more keen to support this now, our neighbours Grey Highland, in this moment.
Okay. Further, Councillor Hutchinson?
Well, I was just sort of on the wavelength that I would like to maybe have a little bit more information, look at the memorandum of understanding, especially when it talks about species at risk, and can we put that in there? And so I would lean towards maybe just deferring it for a little bit, and eventually we're going to support something along this line, but just get some more information.
Sure. And the nice timing on this one, members of council, is that the deputy and myself have a Conservation Authority meeting this week. So we can connect with our counterparts there as well as staff, so we can bring information back as well. So whether that is for the deferral or for any other path forward that council determines, that will take place as well. Councillor Townsend, then Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I agree. Eventually, we're probably going to support Grey Highlands. But as you say, the timing, and I did know there was a Conservation Authority meeting. In addition, next week, we're going to see the Memorandum of Understanding.
Yeah.
So to me, 1 week doesn't really matter. And in fact, my earlier comment said we may want to do our own, which is more focused depending on what we have before us. Again, a week's delay I don't see as a huge effort. But I think I'd rather do it more informed, and maybe we can be more direct, saying the action is already being taken by the province, yet you haven't done this, if you understand what I mean. So it's like proving that they've already gone beyond where they should have before they actually did their consultations. So.
Good, very good. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I just wanted to remind everyone that the mayor and I will be asking that the conservation comes here for a delegation to do a presentation to all of us on their proposed budget. And I think some of these questions, they will certainly be, because it'll be the general manager, so we have some questions we could direct it or target market at that specific time as well. So I know that delegation will be requested hopefully tomorrow when we get to our meeting. Thank you.
I can tell you, thank you very much for the reminder, Deputy. The request out has been made for delegation for Conservation Authority staff to be present during our budget, for sure. That's just a good practice overall. Is there any other comments or questions over to my left? To my right? Anything? So yes, Councillor Hamilton, please.
Can you remind me, is there a motion on the floor, and could we hear it again?
Absolutely. So I will have the clerk read it because it's in his handwriting. It's been moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey defers a decision respecting the Municipality of Grey Highlands and Township of Springwater until further information is obtained regarding mandatory and non-mandatory Conservation Authority programs.
On the motion, are there any comments or questions? Then calling the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? The motion does carry. Thank you. So Clerk Turner, as I'm just signing this, would you be able to move on to your next item, which is Town of Kingsville?
So the Town of Kingsville Council has passed a motion seeking support, calling on the province to halt the closures of or mergers of local health services, including public health units, land ambulance services, hospitals, and long-term care homes. So I'm just looking for any direction from council.
How does council wish to proceed with this one? Councillor Hamilton, thank you.
I'd like to receive this for information. I feel like I don't have enough information about our own unique Grey County picture to support this letter the way it is.
Okay, I am going to take that as an indication of a motion. Would there be a seconder for that, Deputy Mayor? So any other discussion or questions? Councillor Townsend, please.
One comment is the comment they make about amalgamation of hospitals and how that was a failure. I would argue differently, because I've seen SBGAC has been absolutely hugely successful. The difference that's interesting is it wasn't done by government. It was done by residents of West Grey that decided to keep, or Durham probably at the time, that to keep their hospital, they were looking at ways to reduce costs and yet improve efficiency. So it does prove that you don't have to be in government to make things successful, but it also shows how government isn't successful where residents can be. So I have a hesitation of supporting those kind of comments, that are made, because they're a little strong and they're not always true. So.
Okay, fair enough. So, so we have a mover and Councillor Hamilton, you were seconding that? It was the receipt of it. Oh, pardon me. Sorry, I have to regroup myself. My apologies, I just regrouped it. And thank you for the clarification. We do have a mover and Councillor Hamilton, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, to receive this information. Thank you. I just needed to collect myself on that. Any other comments, questions to my left, to my right? So then on the motion to receive, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that does carry. All right, we have the West Grey Public Library Board item. Clerk Turner. Thank you, Deputy. Okay.
So there is a request from the Chief Executive Officer / Chief Librarian, and the board, Public Library Board for West Grey to consider appointing Councillor Townsend as a additional council rep on the board due to a pending leave of absence. They've cited Councillor Townsend's familiarity with the board's proceedings and involvement with the strategic plan session that's been held. So if council is willing to add Councillor Townsend, I would suggest that that can be added through an amendment to Bylaw 89 of 2019, which is on today's agenda.
Okay. So I could look for a motion at this time, if there is a motion. Pardon me?
If there's some direction, I think we would just add it into that bylaw as amended. I don't think we necessarily need a second motion to that effect.
Oh, okay. So we're looking for direction. Thank you very much for the thumbs up. Councillor Hergert, is that everyone here? So the direction is to appoint Councillor Townsend to the West Grey Public Library Board. Okay? Am I just checking around? All right, that is the direction then. Good, that was a very quick item. So we're now on to your last item on your report, Clerk Turner, Town of the Blue Mountains.
Yes, so I did speak to the clerk of Grey County, and I get the Grey County Council has already dealt with this issue. They actually just filed it for information, and they did have a bit of a report or email from Principals Integrity, which is their integrity commissioner as well as West Grey's, and most of Grey County lower tier municipalities for that matter. There is actually a website that the integrity commissioners of Ontario do have that have some of the cases that have been dealt with that are able to have been divulged in the public on that site. Others, the Principals Integrity One of the principals being Jeffrey Abrams had indicated to the county that there are often sometimes decisions that are made informally that don't require an actual report. And then, of course, some of the complaints are actually in confidence and cannot be divulged. So I would just recommend this, similar to the county, that this information be received for information.
Okay, thank you very much. Comments or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to receive then? Councillor Hutchinson, am I also looking at Councillor Hamilton? Any questions? Calling the motion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That does carry. Well, that takes us off the reports, and thank you very much for the thorough report, Clerk Turner. We are now on bylaws for consideration of proposed bylaws for consideration of first, second, and third reading. Thank you. So we'll begin with proposed number 87. Oh, I'll move that down there first. Clerk Turner, could you just explain with regard to bylaw, proposed bylaw 87-2019, the appointment officials of the Municipality of West Grey to the West Grey Committee of Adjustment, and just in terms of the annual approach? Oh, pardon me? Yep.
Sorry, Council, just before we get into the bylaws section, I'm not sure if Council wishes to entertain a direct motion initially before, because it'll impact on one of these bylaws. Yeah, at the October 29th Committee of the Whole meeting, there was some discussion about adding a second member of council to the what's now called the West Grey Traffic Safety Working Group. So there was some discussion and thought of amending the initial resolution that spoke to the formation of that working group, but it only included one member of council at that time. So if council's okay to go to the direct motion, and if they do want to entertain a direct motion by 2/3 majority to change or amend that resolution to change it to 2 members of West Grey Council, as well as a staff member from Public Works, 4 citizens, and a member of the West Grey Police Service also be invited. So if that was done, then that would facilitate perhaps naming a second individual from council on that working group as per the bylaw that's in front of us.
Thank you very much, Clerk Turner, for that summary. This was an item that, as you will recall, that I brought forward during the new business item of our Committee of the Whole meeting, and I would very much look for Council's support to follow through on the appropriate amendment and the appropriate appointment of a second member of Council to this traffic committee. I feel that there's enough work that will be involved. I also know that there were 2 members of council that expressed interest. There's enough workload. It's a working group, so there's a tight time frame. We're advertising for citizen members, and a press release went out, so I would just look to council for support of that. So at this point, if there is a willingness from council, would we go right to a vote for 2/3? And then, okay, so I'm looking for 2/3, but are you voting on the 2/3? Councillor Shea, or a comment?
I'd be happy to do that, but I just thought, can we not just amend the bylaw and pass an amended bylaw?
Good question. Clerk Turner.
Then it would be somewhat conflict the original resolution, which speaks to only 1 member of council. I think this is just a little tidier.
Okay, well, then I would so move.
Thank you. All right, so thank you. It's always worthwhile for clarification. Absolutely. So at this point, I am calling for 2/3, well, I'm calling for a vote, if 2/3 is what we're looking for, to put this over to new business to deal with it now. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. So I'm looking for a motion, which has been moved over. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so I read this one now. So we have moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby amends Resolution Number 503-19 by amending Clause 1 to read as follows. Number 1, a working group be formed consisting of 2 members of West Grey Council, a staff member from Public Works, 4 citizens, and a member of the West Grey Police Services also be invited. Questions or comments on this motion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Thank you very much. All right. So now we will go back to the first bylaw. So I'm just passing these down for consideration. But members of council, we are now back for consideration of proposed bylaw 87-2019, moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that bylaw number 87-2019, being a bylaw to appoint officials of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey, and in brackets, Municipality of West Grey Committee of Adjustment, repeals bylaw number 123-2018, end of bracket, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions? Calling the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Now we're dealing with proposed 88. Yes. All right. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 88-2019, being a bylaw to appoint citizens to various committees of the Municipality of West Grey, bracket, repeals bylaw number 76-2019, end of bracket, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended. Pardon me? Take out the amended? Yes. Clerk Turner? Okay, thank you. Passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Before I call on this motion, the mover and seconder, because the clerk has recommended the words "as amended" be deleted, are you okay with that?
I'm thinking we may need it because I have a couple of changes.
Okay, so we'll leave it in. Thank you. No, see, this is why it's important to go to the mover and seconder. So it stands as amended. Okay, Clerk Turner. Oh, excuse me, before that happens, Councillor Hamilton, would you like it to stay as amended, as the seconder? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Clerk Turner first and then Councillor Hutchinson? Sure. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Actually, I should note some other additions as well. I've been informed that Callie Greenshields is no longer a member of the Durham Recreation local committee, so that her name should be removed. And also, during the October 15th council meeting, there was a motion to appoint some citizens as a matter arising from closed session, and I did not follow that through with this bylaw, so there should be also some appointments to the local accessibility advisory committee, being Jennifer Lang, Cheryl Lindsay, Andrew McLean, Todd Stoddart, and Doug Townsend. And then also there's one additional appointment to the West Grey Parks Recreation and Culture Local Committee for Newstat, being Jerry Lynch. So those would be added. So it will be as amended.
Councillor Hutchinson, please.
And one more, I'd like to clarify it, but I believe CAO was Bill Wilkinson not removed from the Durham Rec Committee also? We didn't receive any official wording on that or official resignation, but I thought that's what they said.
Through Madam Mayor,
yes,
I believe you're right, Councillor, that was a verbal update at the last meeting. I didn't receive anything in writing. However, I can confirm with our recreation supervisor.
Okay. And I may have one more, but I don't think I'm going to announce it at this point. We'll leave it and see.
Okay.
So, okay.
Further on that? So, yes, please, Councillor Hergert.
Yes, so the West Grey Parks and Recreation, Eaton, we also have John Gileau, Gileau, that's been put on at our local committee level, and that those minutes have been approved. So I would just look that his name be included in there too.
Okay, further? I'm looking over to my left. Councillor Shea.
Just a point of order, don't those appointments to those committees need to happen at council?
So that's what I'm saying, is that it has come through the minutes, and we have approved the minutes, so at that point, include it?
Well, we actually receive the minutes, we don't necessarily approve them, but it is typical that, yes, recommendations do come and are actually approved by council.
So that's what I'm asking for. So if the minutes have come through and the local committee has recommended, then what is the next step to get this person included on our recreation and culture? See, it's a bit of a disconnect between the minutes, and we all read the minutes, but the follow-through of the minutes.
Typically, the secretary or whomever should advise staff that that's the recommendation, just make sure they're aware of it, and it'll be brought forward.
And I know I provided the application form to this person as well.
Okay.
I'm not in the business of running around making sure everybody fills out paperwork, so I guess if it would have been completed and brought forward, we would see that as a recommendation on our bylaw.
So this,
On the other hand, of course, we've been typically, most of the positions have been advertised as well when they become vacant, so that might have been the best course of action if there is a vacancy, then to council to advertise. Madam CEO, do you wish to comment?
Oh, there you go. There we go. Thank you, Clerk Turner. Typically, we would receive notification from the committee, whether it's the recording secretary or the chair, of interest of a new member. Then an application form is submitted, and that's what triggers the process for the clerk to put it on an agenda for council's consideration. I've just emailed our recreation coordinator or supervisor. He hasn't received Mr. Wilkinson's resignation. But it is also, in that regard, it's at the call of the chair. If a member's missed 3 consecutive meetings, they can also advise that the member is no longer active. In the case of a new member, I will check to see if an application form has been received. If not, then we can reach out and help the candidate complete that form and put it through the process.
okay. So we're all clear on that process? All right. Anything further for questions or comments? Councillor Shea.
Just to reiterate that at Newstat, we also had a person came on to replace a vacancy, I think, and the committee's first instinct was that we will appoint a new person to fill this position, and I had to remind them that they don't actually have that authority, and I think it's all fine and it's all above board, but I think those committees will remain vital as they bring in sort of new, disinterested, arm's length members. The committees, their first instinct is to bring on, their friend or somebody who's already active in the community. But I think we need to sort of expand the pool of people that we're attracting to those committees, and so I think that's why it's important that it happens at council.
Yeah, and the opportunity to advertise and serve notice that vacancies exist on our committees and that there's opportunities for citizens to apply, for sure. Okay, any other comments or questions? So am I at a point now where this can be considered? I'm going to read it again because there's been much dialogue. I know it's not a big change, but I am going to read it. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 88-2019 being a bylaw to appoint citizens to various committees of the Municipality of West Grey, bracket, repeals bylaw number 76-2019, end of bracket, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. On the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Okay. All right. Clerk Turner, could you just provide me with some assistance with regard to the next bylaw, which is 89-2019? I just note.
So as per the previous motion that amended Resolution 50319, during direct motion, that is, this will be the opportune time if you wish to appoint a council representative to the Traffic Safety Working Group, that could be included as amended in that bylaw.
So at this point, are you looking for a mover and a seconder to appoint, or how would that work
Just
for the
looking to put,
process?
maybe just put forward a name, and if there's agreement then, or consensus,
Okay.
we could add it.
Good, thank you, we're clear on that. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I'd like to put Councillor Townsend's name forward,
Okay,
please. Thank you.
so we're looking for a consensus on that, is that correct? Or that, all right, that is correct through our clerk. So I'm looking here, is that a yes and a yes? Okay, thank you. So that will be infused in here. Yes, that's actually a very good point. I do know that already, but formally, Councillor Townsend, would you accept that appointment?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, so moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Townsend. And that's not a concern that he's being appointed. I just want to let everyone know there's not an issue with Councillor Townsend seconding that particular item, and he would know that for sure. Be it resolved that bylaw number 89-2019, being a bylaw to appoint officials to various committees of the Municipality of West Grey, in brackets, repeals bylaw number 75-2019, end of bracket, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Further, Councillor Hamilton.
Did we address the library appointment as well
Clerk Turner?
in this bylaw?
That will be forthcoming to another meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Further, on the motion for this bylaw, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay. A little more procedure involved in these bylaws for today. Yep. I'm looking for 90. Oh, here it is. Okay. Clerk Turner, may I proceed with 90? Yes. Are you okay? All right, so moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that bylaw number 90-2019, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy chief building official and building inspector for the Municipality of West Grey, in brackets Mary Schofield, repeals bylaw number 35-2019, end of bracket, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Is there any comments from staff on this particular one? No? All right. Any comments, questions from members of council? On the motion for this bylaw, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay. So now we're dealing with bylaw number 91. Ah, yes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Herger. Be it resolved that bylaw number 91-2019, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the November 5th, 2019 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. That takes us through the bylaw section, and we are now on, thank you, Clerk Turner. New business. There were a few items, as you recall at the beginning, that were pulled from the information items. Pardon me? Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. So there are some new business items based on earlier in the agenda that we'll deal with among anything else. But we do have a request for a quick break. Members of council, are we good for that for a few minutes? Okay, thank you very much. I know there's lots of conversations going on, and I respect all of them. I'm just putting a little pause in there. But I would like to call our meeting back to order, and we'll certainly have conversations, networking, connections all the time. But here we are back to order, and we are now dealing with item 14, which is new business. We have a couple. To begin with, SMART. So I believe there were some questions with regard to what we have before us, and I'd like to open that up at this point, and Councillor Hamilton is our representative. So, questions. First of all, Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I think I was the one that asked about pulling it, just to get some clarity on some of the question. First of all, there's just a little typo in there that you maybe have picked up on in the first paragraph in the report that group excursion rides were, no, it's actually second paragraph. Group excursion rides were down 8% to 6,000 and so on. It goes on to say that that the user fees were down 19% to 33,000 compared to 401,065. So that's obviously should be 40,000, I believe. 40,000. I'm not sure where the last two numbers come from, but to 33,000. Yeah, 33,008 compared to 40,106.5, I guess. Whatever. But my concern was I just wondered why that the budget was going to come up 100,000 short by the year end. So I wondered about that, and I thought, well, there's something wrong in setting a budget, but then Councillor Hamilton and I were having a discussion, and she can maybe enlighten us on that.
Please, Councillor Hamilton, enlighten us.
Sure. Well, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about SMART, because one of my challenges representing you at SMART is when do I get to share how we're progressing here at this table? Maybe that's something we could talk about separately, but keeping you in the loop, certainly that's what I want to do. And call me, email me, or right here at council, I'm so happy to do that. So before I get into your question, just as a way of update, to let council know that we have completed a strategic plan. We have a capital vehicle replacement plan. We have received approval for a grant for replacing vehicles. It's the kind of grant that needs both the provincial commitment and the federal commitment. And the province has given us the thumbs up. We're waiting on the federal government. So fingers crossed, eh? So this is all good progress so far since we last talked about SMART. Right now, we're talking about scope of service at the board level. So this is an important service for our community. We're helping our most vulnerable people get to where they need to go, whether it's appointments or social outings or wherever they need to go. SMART can get people with mobility needs or other needs to where they need to go. However, the service currently has no parameters around level of service. So right now, SMART will take you anywhere, any day, anytime. And so the board has postponed our budget deliberations from October. We've postponed them to November. And we've asked our manager to come back with a report about different levels of service scenarios. And so some of those levels of service, we're just exploring. But for example, what would right now, we operate every day of the week. So what would Monday to Saturday service look like, or Monday to Friday service? What about fixed hours of operation? What if we were to stay within our municipal boundaries only, or perhaps a limited number of kilometers outside of our boundaries, these kinds of things. We've also since spoken with a representative from the LIN, and we've learned that the LIN provides transportation for people who apply who need transportation for medical appointments. So, of course, we don't want to be duplicating service. This is another conversation we want to continue with the LIN. So it's all, I just want you to know the board is actively working to build a service that's sustainable. We don't see the ballooning asks as being sustainable, and so we're actively working on this. So yes to the typo, and I will bring that back to our manager. And then as for the $100,000 short, this budget was a budget that we inherited as a board. So it's one that we're actively working on to, we're examining this right now. Yeah. I hope that answers that question. But certainly a concern of ours that we need to be balanced and we need to be sustainable and so that we can continue to deliver quality service for those who need it in our community.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Hutchinson, further?
I do have another question. Just when you look at the ridership stat summary sheet, and you see Chatsworth's gone up 23% this year, and Southgate went up 58.9%. So I just can't remember, but is our contribution based on ridership from the previous year? Right? Isn't that how that's figured out? That's right. So those people will go up, Ours will go up 2% right now until it gets to the end of the year. So, okay, I just wondered about that. Couldn't remember how that formula worked again, but, right, so we're compensated based on, or we compensate based on our ridership.
Okay, thank you for that. And in terms of updates from our, what I call external committees or boards, and then obviously our own advisory committees, boards, task forces, okay, so we can improve on how we're doing that for sure, and certainly that's something that we could do. I think one of the options we could do is during the time where minutes are presented. So as the SMART, for example, SMART minutes are presented on the council agenda, that may be a good opportunity just to separate, as our clerk probably, pardon me? Yeah. Anyway, let me just finish, and then I know our clerk will weigh in on this. But I'm thinking that when we have when the minutes are present, maybe that's a good indication of, and we can connect with the clerk and all that. Yes, there's something to report on SMART in relation to these minutes, or, the connection could be, every quarter or as a need be. But we'll work through that. But I think that is certainly something that I know Councillor Hutchinson has brought forward as well, that we just want to make sure we always have the connect with our external boards and committees, and also our committee. So that's a really good effort that we can improve on that. So thank you for the SMART question. Any other SMART questions on this, Councillor Townsend?
Is there a projection being done for year end? That means that you will have an ask back to each municipality for a share, and when would that be available so that we can plan for that?
So thank you for the question. So our manager did prepare the ask at the last board meeting, and that's when we asked to save that for the November meeting. But there are some councillors who did have to bring those numbers back to their councils because they're actively working on their budgets right now. So I expect by the November board meeting, I'll have a revised number that will be coming to council. Yep.
Please continue.
Yeah, clarification. Going forward is fine, like you can do that planning, but I'm assuming you're going to have a second ask or a first ask, which will be to cover the deficit for 2019. I see those as two separate points. So I'm assuming that you're not going to be able to change your model between now and December 31st to eliminate it. So when will we know what the ask is for 2019?
And so the ask, like we have our November board meeting, and I would expect the ask to come directly out of that. And if our treasurer or council needs the ask sooner, it could certainly bring what the October ask was. But we're fully expecting that ask to change given the next meeting that we'll be having.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Fair enough. Councillor Hergert, please.
To mention, this isn't the first time that we've heard from SMART saying there's some budget difficulties, I guess, and I appreciate that you've brought us all a card about public transit and funding and advocacy for that. Also, just looking for how much does it actually cost this year. I know it is very difficult to predict how many people will come, especially some of these municipalities are having double-digit increases or double the digits that they had before for ridership, and obviously we want to promote the service. I'm very happy that you're looking into all the factors that that go into the service level that we do provide, and that may reveal some things that changes and so on for next year. So I am looking for how much for the 2019, how much that's going to cost, but also that we get a really accurate budget for 2020, and that asset management plan is incorporated into that 2020. So I'm looking forward to those details, and thank you for sharing on your committee.
Comment back, yeah.
So is council okay if I report back after the November board meeting with those numbers? I think it will be more accurate than if I were to give you October's numbers. Yeah.
Yes, everybody is saying yes and
Great.
very supportive.
And then just to say, I know changing levels of service, if that were to happen, has an impact on the community, and we need to take some care and communicate and engage. So I don't take that lightly either, but we are looking for a service that is one that we can all afford so we can continue to deliver service in our community.
Very good. Thank you. Further questions on SMART? Seeing none. Another item that we brought forward here was dealing with the Parks, Culture and Recreation Committee for Eaton Normanby. Councillor Hergert, please.
Thank you. I'm also bringing this and pulling this because I want to make sure that our committee is aware of the asks and the requests out of our minutes. So this set of minutes was from August. Since then, we've had a meeting even this last week. We've gone through the Haunted House of Eytenstein as a fundraiser and community activity, and now we're gearing up for the November 30th lighting of the Christmas tree. In the past, that Christmas tree has been located on our library, right on the main street. There's been discussion that that the committee would like to have a Christmas tree at Centennial Hall. Now, the location of it would be right inside of the entryway, and there's a pavilion on the west side. It'd be the southwest of that property. And the placement of this Christmas tree was hoped to have been included in between the driveway in and the pavilion. This would be all done with in-kind money. We would be paying, the committee would be paying for the rental of a tree spade, but all the work to get that done would be volunteers. So I'm looking for some direction on that, how we would like to proceed. There are no services underneath there, and we would most certainly contact the locate to come out and do that. And we're hoping to have that Christmas tree lighting November 30th. So as we are November 5th, I'm looking for some direction from our committee, from our council.
Okay, what's the date again of the?
November 30th.
I think I even mentioned that in my, yeah, I did. I mentioned it in my preamble.
Yes.
Okay, so November 30th, let's do some quick problem solving here. I think what I'd like to say, thank you for highlighting that, Councillor Hergert. Definitely connect with staff, and through our infrastructure and public works, I'm going to say right to our director level. Also, I would say to Cody Hewitt, who's our recreation supervisor, definitely call before you dig, yeah? So I would be looking at staff for that call before you dig as well, and involve any other staff as necessary, Madam CAO. So with that, what time frame can we look at, Madam CAO?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for bringing this forward, Councillor. Just for my clarification, this tree, so the committee has secured a live tree to be planted.
Yes.
And that would be the site of the Christmas tree lightings moving forward.
That's correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. So I will I will connect with Public Works and Recreation post this meeting to get some of that prelim work done, and see how quickly they can do that.
Okay, and there's nothing else that needs to come before council on this, so we're good, we're clear on the agenda that way. It's just a matter now of the connection with our staff.
Yes, and Madam Mayor, perhaps it would be good, and I'll defer to the clerk, if we could have a direction from council to have this tree planted, because it will become an asset, and that gives us closes that loop on why we're doing this work.
Okay, that actually is a good suggestion. Clerk Turner, do you concur with that? I quite like that. That's good.
Yes, it would be in order. If you wish to entertain a motion, I guess it would be a second direct motion.
Second direct motion, which we are... Yeah, where are we on that? Oh, actually, direct motions are later on, so timing is perfect, Councillor.
Yep.
So, yes, I would say that's a very good idea if that's something you'd entertain. I'm taking as a notice, an indication of motion that you'll move that, and if there's a seconder for that, then we'll look forward to that under item 16, notices of motion / direct motion. Anything further that you wish to highlight on these minutes?
Absolutely. So in here, there's discussion about having a vacation Bible school in the morning, but our recreation programming in the afternoon. I bring it up just early to highlight it. I realize there will be budget implications. And next week we have our joint recreation meeting with Durham, Neustadt, and Eaton. So it likely will be something that evolves out of that. But what we're trying to do is get some coordination amongst the different recreation groups to say what is the programming that Eaton would like and what's the programming that Durham would like, and how can we utilize the volunteers that we have. a lot of these people are grandparents or have kids in the community. They're really not the direct users of the programming, but the off users of it. And really what they'd like to do is to say, we have great programming that we can do throughout West Grey. Maybe Durham has swimming, well, Eaton doesn't have swimming. So how can we cycle and circulate the kiddos throughout the summer so that we have a coordinated recreation plan? I don't think that, nobody's asking for money at this moment, but we're trying to see that transportation, does that work for us? Do we just need to transport kiddos and then they can utilize money that's in their recreation budget? Or if this is a new request out of recreation budget. So I just want to highlight that is some of the early discussions about programming for recreation. And we're just looking to coordinate that and likely it'll be discussed during budget.
So also, thank you for that. I'm wanting to connect Cody Hewitt, our recreation supervisor, with this right away. And whether those discussions with the committee and certainly Councillor Hergert, who's our representative on that committee, can take place, and that can be done, well, I'm going to suggest in advance of budget deliberations, and just acknowledging that this is underway in connection. Madam CAO, could you please comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The meeting is set for November 11th in the evening, and Cody is included in that meeting, and I will be attending as well, primarily so that we do have a heads up on any budget or fundraising initiatives that Recreation as a whole would like to do next year.
Okay, perfect. Good. Okay. Anything further on those minutes? Councillor Shea, I noticed your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm just noticing that I won't be at that meeting, even though I'm one of the three representatives, because it's on a Monday. But I did want to, I think that's a great initiative that we're hearing about, and I'll work hard to make it work at our end. But I did just want to comment on, I noticed that Councillor Hergert had seconded a couple of motions as a member of that committee, and I noticed that Councillor Hamilton did some on a committee that she was on. And I wanted some clarification about councillors on committees and our legal status. Are we observers? Are we full members? Do we vote? Do we move? Or, and is it consistent? I guess I'm looking to Mark for this. Mm-hmm. Is it consistent across all committees, or is it just like can Rebecca vote on the airport committee because that's arm's length? Or
so a few things that there's a few things in that. So when an item comes from one of our boards, like an extended board through, whether it's airport, smart, that type, is there an ability, obviously an ability to move and second? So there's that concern, and there's also a discussion you have within the advisory committees in terms of voting at the advisory committee level as well. So Clerk Turner, could you provide clarification for one and all?
So the terms of reference for the West Grey Parks Recreation and Culture Advisory Committees include, among the membership, a maximum of 3 non-voting paid members of council.
So they don't, so for further developing that, the members of council do not vote at the advisory level for recreation, okay? And also when the item then, if there's an item brought forward, for example, by this committee to the council table, or committee of the whole table, council table, budget deliberation table, that the appointed members can vote at the table. I would like you to say that into the mic.
That is correct.
Thank you very much. So those are the two questions I gleaned out of what you're saying. Further, Councillor Shea.
What about library?
Oh yeah, good one.
I'd have to look at the Public Libraries Act to determine that. I did look at it a couple nights ago, but I can't recall in terms of that
economic development.
question.
I guess I could look at this document as well.
Yeah, you're looking at when you're in the committee proper.
So the terms of reference for the West Grey Economic Development Advisory Committee regarding membership, members of the West Grey EDAC shall be appointed by council in accordance with the general terms of reference, which includes a maximum of 3 non-voting paid members of council.
and the Traffic Safety Committee. That'll be my last one, I promise.
I would expect that would be online with it, but I don't know. That would be for the clerk to provide information on.
Generally, in West Grey Advisory Committees, which I would say would include the working groups, it does speak to non-voting representatives from council.
Okay, now, based on all of that, members of council, we are going to recirculate. Clerk Turner, can you just turn that document towards me so I can read it? We're going to recirculate the West Grey Advisory Committee's Terms of Reference - General. So you can expect to receive that. That's good. And at the council table, you are able to vote. Okay, so we got that cleared up. Councillor Shea, anything further? Okay, so are we off the minutes then on that? Are there any other new business? Okay. Yes, Councillor Hamilton.
Would it be possible to have all those Christmas dates and tree lighting dates
Yes.
that could those be circulated?
They certainly will be
Thank you.
circulated, absolutely. Yeah,
Thank you.
That will absolutely happen. Anything further? Councillor Herger.
Can those get circulated in a news and notice to bump up, everybody's participation and so on? And I know for Eaton, we're actually asking everybody in their front window to put some sort of Christmas tree, just to do the branding and so on throughout. But it can be a Christmas tree in your front window, on your front lawn, anywhere in the front of the home, somewhere to have a Christmas tree. And that's our little bit of effort.
Lovely, and thank you for mentioning that. Okay, on news and notices, I think it's done anyway, but please confirm.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We are intending on doing a media release that also talks about the new Christmas lights that are coming to the various communities, and
Yes.
just a festive release all around.
Okay, good, but this is the idea, is bring this information forward, questions, concerns, positive comments? This is for... Yes, yes, yes. So I'm going to get you to read that because that's in your handwriting at the appropriate time. So the idea of bringing, I know Councillor Hergert wants to move that, by the way. So the idea of bringing comments, questions forward during this particular time is absolutely essential, and our clerk is absolutely doing his job, keeping us on track. Councillor Hergert, you mentioned that there was a motion that you would be so inclined to move. I'm going to send it down your way, and then whoever to second it. Okay, so, and then we'll do that, and then I'll call to you, okay? Okay, this is dealing with Eaton. Okay, good. I know we're all keen here, and I absolutely enjoy that about council. All right. Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Deputy Mayor. I'm passing it over to clerk to read it in his writing.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the proposed Christmas tree planting at the Eaton Centennial Hall, funded by in-kind donations, as proposed by the West Grey Parks, Recreation and Culture Local Committee, brackets Eaton, to be coordinated with Public Works and Recreation staff.
Comments, questions? Yes, Councillor Hergert.
So the only thing I would like to clarify is the tree spade was going to be rented, and that's through the recreation fundraised money?
Okay, so noted. Madam CAO, please.
Thank you. That's important clarity.
Okay.
Okay.
And then thanks to everybody that's doing the in-kind work as well.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Further? All right, on the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. And I just want to note, that was unanimous. Sometimes I like to put it up there like that. Thank you very much, Clerk Turner, for keeping me straightforward. Any other new business? Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hergert. Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hutchinson, and Councillor Townsend.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Robinson. So two different new business items, and Mayor Robinson, you can perhaps direct me if this is the appropriate time to bring them up, but one would be, we heard today from Launchpad, and there seems to be some interest at the council table about cooperative placements or college school placements, that kind of thing. So could we move that discussion forward? I'm wondering if staff could make a connection with our local high schools and bring back a report about what cooperative placements might look like, or what would be a good way to move this conversation forward?
I think the most appropriate way is through a staff report.
Okay.
And, you know, that we do have minutes here, but I'm going to suggest that we leave it with our CAO that would either be writing the report or will be involving other staff, perhaps like our recreation supervisor, I think, is ideal to look at this, but I leave it with Madam CAO in her capable hands to bring a report forward.
Okay.
Does that suffice? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Further?
Okay, and the
Yep.
second item could staff come back at some time with an inventory of our municipally owned properties in a report as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can absolutely do that.
Sorry, staff.
That's a check mark. Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson, please.
I was just going to mention that I mentioned to our CAO about the dates coming up next year.
Yes.
And that last year they did it through a calendar process where they sent the dates out and then we imported them into our calendar. So I was hoping that we could do that again rather than going through and doing it all yourself individually. Is everybody okay with that? If that's going to work for you?
That would be very efficient. Thank you for that suggestion. Madam CAO, is that something that we can do?
Yes, Madam Mayor. In fact, I will also have the festive dates sent to council as a calendar invite as well, so it'll go straight into your calendar.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Further, Councillor Hutchinson? All right, thank you. Councillor Townsend?
Since you're meeting with the Conservation Authority tomorrow,
Yep.
I'm wondering if you and I can spend a couple of minutes talking about Carr River in Eaton, and I'll share what I've got from the Conservation and the insurance company, and hopefully you might be able to precipitate some moving forward of that.
Yes, I will welcome that conversation, and then we will connect in council members as well at the appropriate time
Right.
for information, and then to close the loop on how that's being addressed at conservation. Okay? Good. Anything further under new business? Looking on this side, that's it. Okay, good. Thorough discussion. We are now off item 14. There are no addendums with regard to item 15. Notice of motion, item 16. Nothing. We cleared everything up on our handling it in different procedures, so there's no notice of motions. Direct motion, all right. Item 17, closed session, incomplete items only. I could say that's an NA. Item 18, matters arising from closed session if there was incomplete items only. NA. Item 19, question period. Mr. Miller, did you have a question or not at this time? Oh, yeah? Sure, come on over to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing that caught my attention was talking about SMART not wanting to go out of their territory. They do transport not patients, but not medical patients, but people to the Untitled Hospital, just simply for whatever. I think that should be continued.
Ah, very good. Okay, so noted on that? Yes, please respond, yes.
So noted.
One other thing,
Okay.
on the building inspector's report, on the bylaw, is there what do I say? A fee for wind turbines?
On this particular, Clerk Turner, could you respond?
Well, in the building fees bylaw, there is a fee for wind turbines.
Okay.
There's been no wind turbines constructed in the recent past, so there wouldn't be any fees.
What about
This is for
solar
industrial-
panels?
Industrial wind turbines. I'm not aware of solar panels. I don't believe there's anything there. If I recall, I'd have to check with the building department. Maybe it's another other in the other category. I would have to check for the solar
I
panels.
see. Well, I think over on number 4 highway there heading towards Priceville, there is a little wind or a solar panel farm that is starting. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, a couple things. We'll get back to you with regard to that inquiry about the solar panels. And Councillor Hamilton, would you like to respond on the SMART question?
Mr. Miller, duly noted about the Owen Sound Hospital, and I'll take that back to the board for sure. And just to note that these are just things we're exploring. We want to know the impacts of any change in service levels. So I know that's an important.
I've been up there
Yes.
many times for the last year.
Yes.
Every time I'm up there, I see a smart bus vehicle sitting
Yes. Yes, thank you for that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right, so we're on item 20, Municipal Act notices. I see none. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Townsend. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you and very well done.